Shocking new details on the conditions a Tufts University doctoral student faced following her arrest by ICE in March. Remember this video of Rumeysa Ozturk when she was detained by immigration officials? Well, now she's detailing how she was held for hours without legal representation, food, or water in a new essay published by Vanity Fair this morning. Suffering a severe asthma attack without primary inhaler, denied religious accommodations like food and a space for morning prayer. She says she was assigned to a small cell with 23 other women, at times with no access to feminine hygiene products or even toilet paper. She writes that she found comfort in the women, all trapped in our own individual nightmares, until she was released on a federal judge's order in May. Joining us now is the ranking member of the House Subcommittee on Immigration, Democratic Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal of Washington. Congresswoman, thanks for being here. Denied access to water, her primary inhaler, legal resources. What's your reaction to what Ozturk is saying happened to her?
Well, Anna, thank you for covering this. This is such an important issue, and this is a supercharging of the lack of any condition standards, dignity, due process for immigrants that are picked up. Now, in this case, under the Trump administration, all of that detaining and arresting and deporting, sending masked men to pick up people on the streets, undermining due process, as was the case with Rumeysa Ozturk and freedom of speech. What we are seeing is the situation getting even worse and people being swept up of all legal statuses. This is not about what Trump said, the worst of the worst, the criminals who are threatening our public safety. This is about people who have committed no crime, who have been here, are here potentially on legal visas, and even U.S. citizens. And so it is horrific. I have had a Dignity for Detained Immigrants bill that I have introduced every term that I've been here in Congress to address the conditions in detention, the lack of due process. We are updating that bill now, given the travesty of what we've seen, and we'll be introducing it shortly.
You mentioned U.S. citizens even being detained. We are learning of one of those, an Army veteran who says he was detained during an ICE roundup in California last week. He says he was violently arrested, held for 3 days. Listen to what he told my colleague, Chris Hayes.
I also let them know that I was a veteran and I wasn't doing anything wrong, that I'm just trying to get to work. I'm not trying to protest them. I'm not trying to fight them. I'm just a man trying to get to work. Clearly, it didn't matter if I was a citizen or if I was a veteran or if I identified who I was at all. It didn't matter to them.
Congresswoman, you just introduced legislation that would make it illegal for ICE to detain or deport U.S. citizens. Explain, what would your legislation do for cases like this?
Yes, it's the Stop ICE from Kidnapping U.S. Citizens Act. I just introduced it this week. And what it does is it says ICE cannot use any funding to arrest or detain or deport U.S. citizens. Now, Anna, this is already law that ICE can't deport U.S. citizens because they are, by virtue of the fact that they're U.S. citizens, there's nowhere to deport them to. But it is also completely illegal for ICE. They have no authority whatsoever to detain or arrest U.S. citizens. And we have seen numerous cases where this has happened. That was George Retis that you mentioned that was recently picked up. Jose Hermosillo is a 19-year-old U.S. citizen who was detained for 10 days in Arizona. There are 2 U.S. citizen children who were deported to Honduras. And what is so shocking about all of this is that in each of these cases, instead of the U.S. government saying, we never should have done this, we have to get these people back, what they're doing is introducing a lot of evidence that is false, making claims that are being, completely countered by the people in these situations. And none of these people are having access to attorneys. As George, I think he said this in your segment, but it is true that he was, for 3 days, he was not given any access to an attorney, to phone calls. He wasn't told why he was charged. So this is a stunning, stunning breach of every U.S. citizen's rights. And ICE is a rogue agency.
And I'm sure you know, Congresswoman, that the Department of Homeland Security is still saying that the reports of citizens being wrongly arrested are false.
Yeah, they're just wrong, and you can see it with all these cases. And that is what I'm saying is the thing that's really stunning is it's not that this hasn't happened in the past. Every once in a while it does happen. It's a terrible thing. But typically the U.S. government takes responsibility. In this case, the U.S. government has no concerns, apparently. ICE, as a rogue agency, has no concerns about deporting or detaining or arresting U.S. citizens. Outrageous.
Clearly, this is something that you're passionate about. I do want to pivot real quick to the Epstein files. There's now a bipartisan resolution pushing for their release, and you wrote on X, release the files. What do you suspect they would reveal?
Well, I don't know, but the fact that there is this giant cover-up and that the president seems to be so committed to spending all of his time fighting the release of the files, even calling his own supporters who drummed up the conspiracy theory to start with weaklings and saying we don't need their votes, makes you wonder what is in those files. Let's release this. This is a child predator. And what Trump is doing now appears to be a cover-up and a tremendous hypocrisy and bait and switch. So release the files. If you got nothing to hide, show the American people that transparency.
Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, thank you very much for joining us.